Let's turn now to ABC's Rick Klein, who's going to walk us through. First of all, good evening.
Good evening, guys.
Thanks for joining us here. You're going to walk us through the sort of the David Muir talked about this a little bit, but can you give us the nuts and bolts of the choreography of the evening?
Sure. This is a loose debate, far looser than we're used to. We're used to seeing lights and buzzers and all kinds of crazy things happen in the wings that tell candidates when time is up. None of that tonight, or very little of it, actually. Jim Lehrer is the moderator. He gets 90 minutes to play with here, and the debate is, by rules of the Commission on Presidential Debates, it is split into 15-minute segments. So it's 6 different topics. Actually, 3 of them are the economy, if you can believe it. That's how Lehrer has chosen it. And inside each one of these segments, we're going to have an opportunity for some real interaction with the candidates. A 2-minute opening statement for each of the candidates, and then all bets are off. Those guys can interact with each other, they can challenge each other, they can question each other, they can probe, they can prod, they can talk over each other. It's going to be left to Jim Lehrer to mediate what could be a pretty interesting night.
What do you two think, as political experts, what do you two think the potential is for real, sharp interaction here?
I think it's inevitable. I think it has to happen, if for no other reason than Mitt Romney needs to make a splash tonight. I think he knows he's got an opportunity, and this is his biggest and best opportunity to make the case directly to President Obama. He knows no one's really seen that, so he has a chance to even express that visually. I'm out there standing toe-to-toe with the president, challenging him.
But let me
and Romney did that during the debates, right? During the primary debates, he got when he was up on the ropes, he got very specific, he got very aggressive, and he was not afraid to go out there and really, put his fist forward, whatever he needed to put forward. Some of the other candidates shied away in those moments. Remember, we saw candidates who were at one point the front runner. Rick Perry obviously had his stumbles. You had that with Michelle Bachmann, with Rick Santorum. They all stumbled in those debates when the bright light was shining on them. Not so much for Mitt Romney.
We have 2 clutch players on the stage tonight, but let me just get back to the tricky balance for Mitt Romney, because on the one hand, there's all this talk about his need to connect, to have a real human moment. At the same time, he's under enormous pressure from his fellow Republicans to draw sharp contrasts. And let me just read to you, I read this to you earlier. This is my favorite quote, perhaps of all time, from any political pundit ever. This is from a Republican strategist by the name of Matt Schlapp, who says that Romney has to be, quote, like Mr. Rogers with a knife under his cardigan. Any truth to that?
I can see Mitt Romney in a cardigan somehow. Yes. That visual sort of works. Whatever weapon he wants to wield underneath, though, it has to come out tonight.
But it's a tricky balance.
Of course, as it is for anyone. But I also don't think we're not dealing with a Mitt Romney who is totally unknown to the American public. They've seen him on their TV screens, on the cover of magazines and newspapers. They know something about the guy before, so it's not like this is a first introduction. But I think this is the time for contrasts. It's interesting talking to Romney folks. For months and months and months, they have maintained this election is a referendum on the president and his economy. Well, guess what? If that was the case, they lost, because this election hasn't tipped just on the economy. They have to change this into a choice between the 2 candidates. That is a tacit admission that their original strategy wasn't working. This change in strategy, though, I think is so important for them. They need to present what he's going to do differently in the context of what the other guy's doing wrong, tell President Obama to his face what's not working about his policies, but then present himself. I think the 2 actually match up quite well for him.
Well, and tell us a little bit, though, about the style here that you expect. We've been talking about this for a while. The fact that you're going to get a lot of people tuning in, especially for those first 10, 15, maybe 30 minutes, and then they may wander, right, after that. So how do you pull someone in that first 5 minutes without looking like you're over anxious, over aggressive?
Yeah. I'd be telling Mitt Romney to channel a little disappointment, not anger, because that's the mood of the public right now, at least the public that's persuadable in this election. They don't hate President Obama. They're not angry about President Obama. They're disappointed in President Obama. You saw touches of this at the convention a couple of weeks ago, where they talked about how, yes, we wanted the country to get better, but you know what? It didn't work out. That's the theme that Mitt Romney has to push tonight and in the balance of this campaign. We gave the guy the keys for 4 years. It didn't work out the way that everyone hoped that it would. Now let's try someone different.